Joining us now is Daniel Berger. Daniel Berger is a Philadelphia lawyer and a commentator and writer on economic and social policy issues. He has appeared on a lot of cable news shows, including Ed Schultz and Fox Business News. Hey, I've been there, done that, and speaks out a lot on behalf of the Patriotic Millionaires group. And the Patriotic Millionaires group is jumping into the economic conversation again. Daniel, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, it's great to be here.
Now, I gather you've also done well for yourself and want to give back. At least that's the theme of the group. I believe the full name of the group is Patriotic Millionaires for Fiscal Strength. Is that right?
That's correct. The group was established, I believe, in 2011. It's got about 200 members. We're affluent. We're members of the 1%, but we're not in the 1/100th or 1/1000th of 1%. So we don't represent the oligarchs, the oligarchy in this country, but we're people who are extremely affluent and have done well. And we were brought together on an ad hoc basis in 2011 in response to the so-called fiscal emergency that was being ballyhooed about at that time. And we made the dramatic, if not revolutionary, proposal that we would be willing to accept slightly higher taxes in order to address the fiscal issues that were much talked about at that point.
So you are not advocates of what Daniel Moynihan called enlightened self-interest, or you see your self-interest in broader terms than merely the amount of taxes you're paying. So, tell us about that.
Yeah, we saw ourselves. This is really an exercise in enlightened self-interest because, and it's funny because the wealthy, which is a tiny sliver of the population, have the most to lose from a catastrophic disruption of the economy or of U.S. society. And so we think it's very short-sighted what most wealthy people do. And by the way, I must say that there are a lot of people like us who are very affluent, including, I would say, 10 to 15% of the oligarchy, are progressive in their outlook. So I don't want to give you the impression that, that we were, that we're a bunch of lone voices in the night. It's just that, the vast majority of extremely wealthy people, particularly in the oligarchy, have the public spotlight and unfortunately are very self-interested and short-sighted, and their politics are very reactionary.
Well, what worries me about all of this, Daniel, is that about the pattern you're describing is that it contributes to a fractioning of our society where, I think the 99%, the 1%, it's a great framing for people to understand, and I endorse it, but what people also don't understand that's implicit in what you said is that even within the 1%, there's a 99 and a 1%. There are people, and that even within that 0.1%, there are people who want to do the right thing because they're good human beings, they're Americans, they happen to be very either lucky in their genetics and where they were born, or lucky in their gifts and in their passion for what they like to do in life, or well compensated for it. So, all of it tends to, and then we've got, anytime someone wants to address these inequality issues, we've got people who come back and say, well, that's class warfare. Well, class warfare has been going on for a long time, right?
Well, let me add one thing to what you said. It's not just that we're altruistic and others are selfish, although that is true. It's that we believe in the scientific worldview, and we're well-informed, well-educated, reasonably well-informed, and we believe that there's something called a progression of ideas in the history of ideas, where new ideas, new and more true ideas, replace older and falsified ideas. And this is particularly true in the in the modern period, and we know that, look, the country is facing, it's in a decline, a steep decline, and the decline is being driven by underlying factors, structural factors, which, if they're not addressed, the decline is going to become irreversible. And some of these factors, such as the instability of the financial system, the concentration of wealth in the hands of the few, have the potential of causing a catastrophic disruption of either the economy or society, which would be in nobody's interest. So we understand that, and that's the reason why we take the positions that we do. And the tax issue on the fiscal, the so-called fiscal emergency, which, by the way, proved to be largely exaggerated and hyped, and certainly was much less important than the crisis of unemployment that existed as a result of the financial crisis and the ensuing economic downturn, has sort of bled over into the larger issue of concentration of wealth in the hands of the few and economic inequality.
And this, well, I think there's no question, and that gets back to the enlightened self-interest and overall stability of the society that we all continue to live in and expect to live in for the foreseeable future. So you guys are sponsoring an event in Boston this weekend with Thomas Piketty and Elizabeth Warren. Interesting combination. Theoretician and the person who puts thought into action, although she's a theoretician herself. What's the thinking there in teaming up Piketty and Warren?
Well, I think that you have the two leading spokesmen for their respective fields. In Warren's case, it's the fields of politics and public policy, and in Piketty's case, it's economic research and public policy. So that they are an excellent complement, and both of them have just recently written books. I think Piketty's has the potential. It's been a blockbuster. It's a bestseller. It has potential of being, one of the most popular books of all time, seemingly. And Warren's is more about the struggles of the middle class, and from a policy standpoint and political standpoint, what can be done about it. So I think it is a perfect combination. I must say this about Piketty's book. It is very broad in its ambitions. It's called Capital in the 21st Century, and the reference to capital is not by accident. And to might say the grandfather of all books on capitalism, which was written by Karl Marx, called Das Kapital. So this is really, Piketty's book is really Das Kapital in the 21st century.
Right, and he is taking a broad. By the way, I've reviewed it. I read it. It's very readable. I recommend it to people in all walks of life. It's very eclectic in his thinking. I think he and Warren are a great pairing, and I commend you guys for doing it. I'll just close with this. I have a friend who went over to Davos to consult with the 0.001%.
Right.
And I said, how are those guys doing? How are those guys feeling about the world situation? He said, scared. So, sure. Which is, because they've got information. And so I guess, are you optimistic? Are you worried? Are you both?
I am.
To wrap up,
I am concerned. I am concerned because, as what I said before, the U.S. and the advanced economies in the West are in a decline, and the decline is being driven by underlying structural features, mainly having to do with the economy. A principal one of which is the increasing and growing and dangerous levels of economic inequality, and that unless these issues are addressed, the decline will become irreversible. And at the same time, some of these factors, like financial instability, economic inequality, climate change, global warming, have the potential of, causing an acute catastrophic disruption of the economy or society. And these things can be addressed. We know how to address it. We've gone through this before. We've already had, the Depression 1.0, and, we practically had the Great Depression 2.0. We know...
And we still could, and unfortunately we'll have to leave it there, but I couldn't agree with you more. Those reasons are why we call this show the Zero Hour. So it's time to act. Daniel Berger, attorney, commentator, patriotic millionaire, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.